Check it out. So I'm recording through binaural right now. So I'll go and shoot I'm starting off in the underworld because there's no weather down here. So all you hear is just live, zero latency audio feedback from the gigantic chasm and the floor. And that's why the original Nintendo Switch didn't have surround sound in handheld mode. It just didn't have the processing power for it. Same reason why AOSP doesn't have a low latency, even like a low latency audio mode. Samsung had to develop their own from scratch. Just like whoa, was that a fairy? No. Yeah. Just like Samsung and Apple both had the same app for a while when they were both showing off their 24-bit audio capabilities, and then they both kind of went their different ways, with like Samsung going towards a Gear VR, so that was really impressive. I mean, like, if you really understand what's happening, to be able to have the ability to process 3D audio, like not just 360, but 3D audio, and to be able to turn instantaneously while processing video 1-to-1, so you can flick your head back and forth and not feel any like nausea. I mean, I guess John Carmack called it presence, right? Well, it's basically just like hyper immersion, and that's what's going on right here. So when Nintendo stopped using Dolby, it was because Nintendo actually relies on sound, as you can hear, a lot more than any other video game console does. Actually, a lot more than any other media form does. Watch as I just rotate around. And remember, I'm only using 2 speakers. My 3001 SEs, like CAF, you can look them up, it's CAF 3001 SEs, and that's all I'm using. And they just happen to be astounding at doing, they have this really unique driver because they were created as a loss leader prototype, and so they were created pretty much with no corners cut, and they just created this like amazing driver that is one of a kind, that they pretty much are still playing catch work on to this very day, and it's able to play down to like 45 hertz magically, and it's a precursor to like their CAF's like very much more legend, like much more market fanfare elicities that they sent to the hi-fi magazines, while the 2000X and 2000X SEs slowly, before then, iteratively got CAF pretty much rebooted. They pretty much like what happened was, in the 80s, their patent for the UniQ was actually a joint venture because they needed to do ambiphonic audio, and that was in the late 80s. And then so the patent was about to run, the patent was about to run out, so like it was necessary for them to basically reverse engineer their own patent. But not only that, they had to prove that they could outdo themselves, and that they did. And they did it by literally reverse engineering it, not just in the sense where you're just going about things and just twisting things around. They actually optimize things rather than going from the inside out. They optimize it from the outside in. And I did this whole other video explaining how that works, and this is just a demonstration of how well it works. So watch, I'm just walking around my car. There's no weather here. You can see by the dust particles in the air. And remember that the POV that we're listening to is this is us. You know, it's me. It's the screen. We're not listening through Link's ears. So when Link walks past an object, we don't hear it behind us. We hear it behind Link. We hear it right there. So we only hear this go past us when it really does go past us, like this. So let me circle back. What's cool is you can do this too. Wall loaded Link. What's changing? That's kind of odd, right? I thought stereo only panned left and right. You can hear it, right? Basically, it's that Earth is obviously, you know, it's a dot, and it radiates outward. So like, you know, sound radiates outward. Like, so when you put something on a wall, everything will always radiate outward from there. So if you place a speaker on a wall, for instance, sound cannot penetrate, or it can, I guess, you know, but it can, but most of the sound will not penetrate through the wall. It will reflect off the wall. So that's called corner loading, wall loading, or side loading, basically. So when you put your speaker up against the wall, or in this case, Link up against the wall, what you're hearing is very similar to Link or a speaker being placed up on a wall, or looking down on a table surface and listening to a tiny little Link whistle, and then having that whistle bouncing up at you. So the same thing applies to when you see this motorcycle turn around you 360. That makes sense as far as a stereoscopic sound works, right? But it also makes sense when you think about it from this perspective, because we know that we expect that the floor is going to be heavier than the sky. That's an anticipation that we're going to have. Like, we kind of have this anticipation that if something is going to rumble very, very deeply, it's going to rumble through the floor. And it's just kind of just, and if something is going to rumble, like, you know, slightly, like a breeze, it's going to rumble above us, through the trees, through the leaves, etc. So our ears are tuned so that we don't have to turn them. We don't have to actually even move our heads. We could focus on like a single string of, we could focus on a single guitarist, a single string, a single vocalist throughout an entire song that we've heard 1,000 times, and pick up something new. And we could focus on just one snare of a certain song that we've heard 1,000 times. Just you know, pay attention to that one snare and listen to the echo inside of the snare, and just hear it all the way through. And you don't have to move a muscle, because all that happens is actually being the same thing that's happening as your ears have been calibrated so well that even when you're in your womb, you were already listening. And your ear canal is actually an acoustic instrument that's almost like a fingerprint sound for you. So that sound that enters the rear of your ear, enters the top of your ear, enters the bottom of your ear, there's the front of your ear, sounds different than all the way around, the sound that enters, directly from the sides. And never do the two exact same sounds enter from both sides at the same time, right? So there's all sorts of things in our minds that we take for granted, and it takes shortcuts, and we understand how to triangulate sound, we understand how to make sound stereoscopic, and we understand that through understanding how humans do it. And just like when you're walking through a forest and you could hear like a coyote, like following you or walking past you, or you could hear like a bird like in the tree, you can hear immediately the distance it is away from you. You can hear the angle it is up in the tree, and then your eyes look up. We actually live in an audio-centric world, not in a I guess stereoscopic world. We live in a stereo vision world. We live in a stereoscopic world, and that's why we have things like alarm clocks. Alarm clocks don't flash lights. Sirens do, but they have sirens as well. Smoke alarms also blare. The alarm that you have that wakes you up in the morning blares, and also rumbles. But for the most part, we rely on the fact that our ears never turn off. Not from the day you're in your womb, that you strike, your spark of consciousness, to the day that you actually, I guess minutes after you pass away, you still hear. Even when you're on a train and you are about to miss your stop, how many times have you just woken up just exactly at the stop? Even though you actually fell asleep, you fell asleep. So something about that stop woke you up. Our ears are actually that accurate that even when we're asleep, we will implement things into our dreams, like TV shows, the sound of the voices that are happening around us. So you can imagine how many things that you would hear inside your mother's womb. All along, your ears are actually tuning themselves to your mother's voice. So your ears are automatically tuned to your mother's voice, just like all of human ears are tuned to human voices. You look at the loudness curve, it's tuned so that it's basically, there's something called I forget what it's called, but basically it's a phonetic bridge, but it happens between 300 and 500 kilohertz. And the phonetic bridge is where we separate the vowels from things like consonants and things like that. So it's how the difference between cow and gal. Those might sound different in different languages, but they are actually very different languages. There's go and coat. Actually, not, that's pretty similar. Let's see. I think of a better one. Goat and coat. There we go. Goat and coat. So that's a soft G and a hard G. Goat and coat. That all falls within the 3 through 5K band. And that 3 to 5K band is actually extremely sensitive. It's so sensitive that that's actually exactly where a baby's voice begins to develop. It's so sensitive that that's actually what nails on chalkboards sound like. So the same thing that you actually hate when you hear, when you scratch your nose on chalkboards, is actually the way that a mother could actually find her own child crying in a crowded room of babies crying, because her ears are so sensitive to the sound of her baby crying. And her baby is developing its voice from 3 to 5 to 6 outward from there. And that's why it's actually pretty easy to understand a baby, even though they sound like little chipmunks, because their voice sounds very much right between consonants and vowels. And then, as we grow older, the consonants and the vowels start kind of stretching out more. But if you notice, there's actually a relic that's kind of interesting. Between 6 and 8 kilohertz, there's actually a shadow region of the phonetic bridge. And that's how we're actually able to whisper coherently. Like, about half of languages are phonetic. And even if you don't, and actually phonetic, it's kind of hard to even, basically all languages are phonetic, right? I mean, like, if you're asking a question, you have to actually raise the tone at the end, otherwise it sounds like you're being sarcastic, right? So they all have to be phonetic. So if I was in a quiet situation with you and I asked you the question and I said, "Hey, do you want to get some pizza?" versus, "Hey, do you want to get some pizza?" Do you hear the phantom tones? Now check this out. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held by the twilight's gleam, whose bright stripes and red. Well, let's do a simpler song. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. So those are actually phantom tones. What's happening is that between 6 and 8, there's actually a compression region where our ears spike. And it spikes above the breeze and the ambience of like the outdoors, so that we can actually whisper to each other and understand each other comprehensively. And so we're able to speak to each other through about 3,000 to 6,000, as far as like breaking up the vowels. And tonically, roughly, well, I'm just gonna use like for singing, roughly we measure it from 300 hertz up to like I there's no real high really nowadays because of things like auto tune, but classically, up to things like 16 hertz. 16 kilohertz. But usually, that's separated into things like soprano, alto, tenor, etc. And so then all the instrumentations, the person that does the orchestration can figure that out. So sound is very, very interesting, and it all hinges around the human voice. Can you imagine being a dolphin and having it so that you actually see through the same senses that you actually hear with? So you could actually project, like, say, what the expression of experiencing a whale is to some other dolphin or a whale. Basically, most sea mammals could do that, right? Yeah, and a lot of bats could do that. Rats could do that. A lot of small animals can do that as well with small eardrums. They have the ability to speak in hypersonics. So mammals have always been very, 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 very good with our ears. Our eyes are actually not as good as our ears at all. We not only do we have to move them around to see, and we have a terrible poker face as far as we know exactly where we're looking. That's kind of on purpose. We have the sclera in our eyes to actually help, kind of the way dogs signal excitement with their tails, so other dogs can see what's over there. We could actually glance and point with our eyes, and dogs actually symbiotically evolved so that they would actually see. and be able to look where we're looking. And we, as they have scleras as well, also know where they're looking. So we became like pretty much like their first Pokemon, and they became our first Pokemon. But the one sense that you don't have the ability to turn off ever is your sense of hearing. Just think about that for a second. That's how fine-tuned it is. When you're asleep, you go through a period that's called sleep paralysis, which is pretty much like you can't feel a thing. If you ever had sleep paralysis, like the condition where you wake up but your body's still paralyzed, you know what I'm talking about. Where it feels like your body weighs 10,000 pounds. It feels like you're just like so deadly tired, but you have to wake up, and you're still partially you're still partially like hallucinating a little bit because you're trying to wake up. You're like right between the twilight zone between waking and sleeping. But when you're in that phase, you're still hearing full on. Your eyes aren't fully activated, but your ears are. When you're asleep, you're still hearing full on. Your memory faculties may not be fully activated because they're still doing, basically the number crunching and making sure that everything is, going from crystalline to liquid intelligence and back and forth, kind of like cashing checks or something. But so your ears constantly tune, and they constantly evolve, and they constantly are able to detect 360, not 360, but 3D sound, spatial 3D sound all the way around you. And it all comes through two ears. And the same thing applies to stereo sound. When they create a stereo sound, they never intended for it to be just moving from left to right and left and right to left. A sound moving from left to right to left to right to left isn't just it getting quieter on one side and getting louder on the other side. That's why people talk about things like the phantom center, talk about things about, like how you're supposed to get the vanishing act, how you have to properly calibrate your speakers and place them properly and mirror them, all this stuff, right? And all that's just to make it so that your speakers don't give away that they themselves are making any noise. And instead, you get this soundscape that just happens in front of you. But why did I say in front of you as opposed to all around you? Why do people like to turn up the music? It's not just because turning up your music makes your music clearer, because that's not always true. A lot of speakers are actually worse when they're louder. It's because the louder the music, the more it actually resonates around your room, and the more the actual like the background noise, the out of phase noise of the recording begins to overtake your room acoustics. So you actually enter the out of phase room acoustics of the recording. And then from there, you are able to hear the, left and right and triangulate, the actual stereo, like what you consider stereo sound, things moving around you, things hitting this ear before that ear. But that doesn't mean just an arc in front of you. The more that the background of the speakers, or the recording, to be specifically, because a cross mic array, when they first started making stereo, is like this. It's an X, and the X is supposed to be angled, just like your speakers are. Or sorry, just like your ears are, right? And they use cardioid mics so that it kind of cups that direction. And yet, it's not like it's pulsing off the back. It's still recording everything else that's happening in the room. So if Johnny Cash is sitting there in front of the two speakers, you're listening to Johnny Cash being recorded through a cross mic array, but you're also listening to him a few milliseconds later coming from all around you. And that is the z-axis of stereo sound. That actually makes them sound 3D. And when you have the sound working right, this is what you get. Listen to the distance. Remember, this is actually going through only 2 speakers. Yep, there's nothing over there, so it didn't really make a sound. So I'll go ahead and dance something over there. See how it actually sounds like it's actually coming from over my right shoulder. So I'll shoot in front. Now I'm going to turn. See how the canyon there actually wall loaded the sound of the bomb? So the bomb sounds a lot higher now because it's actually reflecting off of the actual negative space of the what's it called? The wall. And that's how sophisticated Nintendo's sound system is. It's leagues beyond Dolby. Dolby is just doing basically what is equivalent to Flash, while Nintendo's doing like Unreal on as far as sound goes. That went pretty far, huh? Get through there. So watch. See how I'm actually hitting a wall? Well, actually, you know what? Check this out. There's actually a bow I have that actually shoots like pretty much infinitely far because it uses electricity, or zonite, which is basically Nintendo's take on, like, you know, oil and REEs, rare earth elements. Zonite. Stop. So if I shoot the wall, let me shoot the floor. That's how it sounds, right? Shoot the wall. Oh, actually, I didn't load it with a bomb. right before H3. Yeah, this one you gotta charge up. It uses zonite, which is actually basically like you have to process it from rare earth elements into various things, electronics essentially, and battery packs and stuff. But, bam. I'm gonna try hitting there. See how open the sound is? It's a little corner loaded sound. That wasn't realistic because, you know, we're in a cavern. But a cavern inside a cavern, Nintendo has it figured out. Sorry. I got it in one time, didn't I? You know what? I think I hit it on top of that mushroom, and since that mushroom's angled appropriately, it bounced back into the cavern. So let me try it on the mushroom again. I'll just keep going for it. I shouldn't touch the glue. Alright. So shooting bombs in a cavern inside of a gigantic cavern. So this would be an area of extreme low pressure. Granted that this cavern doesn't have an exit on the other side, right? Or if it had like a very small exit, then you know it would make it sound very weird. Hear that? Let me try to get the edges. Oh, I'm wrong. Sorry. See how bigger it sounded actually like inside the cavern than outside, which is kind of ironic. Let me get closer so we can get a better sample. Jesus Christ. Alright. Wow. Mark that thing. Probably something pretty cool in there. There's like almost like a horn that's coming out of it. It's actually increasing. this sounds more dispersed. This sounds more echoey, like a cavern inside a cavern. Now watch this. So all this is processed live, remember, everything that's happening. Fuck, did I not attach a camera? Sorry, did I not attach a bomb? I didn't attach a bomb. I was on a sliding scale. And I may have been out of power. Yeah, I didn't attach a bomb, otherwise I didn't have. It would have been much faster. See how different it sounds. I didn't have the bomb again, sorry. See how that actually rumbled like the entire mountainside? Well, this actually cupped the rumble. Oh, sorry. That's a bit too far. Listen to the decay. Now listen to the decay. You see how it's lower? Now listen to the decay again here. See how it's higher? All that's taken into consideration by Nintendo Live. That low-pitched sound is realistic, because that right there is basically corner loading the bass of the bomb and muffling it essentially, while this is fully exposing all the sound and splashing back all the sound from the bomb. Oops. So you can still hear all the high frequencies. This right here wouldn't let all the high frequencies escape. All the high frequencies would bounce all around inside the cavern, only allowing the low frequencies to escape. And Nintendo has their sound system that realistic that they actually have all that calculated in real time. You found out. I think this is amazing. You should check out the DS and the 3DS because it actually all started off there. Check this out. Here's slapback echo. Corner of the link. No bias. It sounds the same, and it sounds like Link is splashing his whistle up at you. Because that's what a corner-loaded omnidirectional Link would sound like if you put him on the tabletop or on a wall. But facing you and out in open space. Versus, let's go back into the cave. And the cave is where you get zonite, the source of all the power in this world. So this cavern right here will have different acoustics. You hear it kind of washing back outward at you. Let's walk towards the wall. Alright, now let's go back out to the open space. The difference between and open space. There's the same differences between shooting a bomb in a cavern and shooting with open space. Listen to the high end. Where is that cavern again? I lost it. There we go. Those mushrooms basically do that, especially when they come back upward. See how it mutes out all the top frequencies? Well, just a little bit lower. And you have the full sound of the bomb. All the high frequencies and everything. His footsteps. Check us out. Try shooting something else. Let's do some chaos. Use a time bomb. And a missile. Alright, 1, This might be kind of cooler. These are time bombs, so they're actually time delayed. So actually that would be a cooler way to demonstrate the surround sound effects. Oh, I didn't hear the one that I think I cut off the one that was supposed to be behind my right shoulder. Left shoulder, sorry. Shoulder. Front. Front and then back. Now directly forward and directly backward. Oh, actually I'm obstructed. Directly backward and directly forward. So at a distance, you're not gonna hear it as clearly as when it's close to you, of course. Because at a distance, low waves actually do reach you a lot more, they just reach you more than high waves. That's why AM travels farther than FM does. So that's why thunder travels, it doesn't, it sounds like a very low roar and then a crackle if you're really up close. High frequency sounds don't travel very far, in other words. So that's how it sounds fully. These are pressure concussion explosives. Shooting directly above me. Did I shoot it? I think I ran out of bombs. But some weird fancy stuff is it doesn't even make a sound. But people have been trying to make the game glitch by just doing all sorts of crazy like sound effects happening everywhere at once. But it doesn't really make the game glitch. Yeah, the game has been able to do this since the Nintendo DS. It might cause some loading hiccups, but you know, what the heck doesn't do that, you know? Like the loading would eventually. I remember back in the days, I used to be able to steal from the guy from Link's Awakening by saving right after I stole the bow, or bought the bow, I mean. And so as he was counting down the rupees, I just saved and loaded so that he could only count down like about 50 rupees before I saved and loaded. And so when I reloaded, I had 950 rupees, and so he had to basically only charge me 50 rupees for a $999 bow. It's pretty rad. I don't actually want to blow my everything I have just doing this demo, so let me go back to the here. Oh, the thing disappeared. That's not good. I wanted to get that, so let's go past it. Yeah, but let's get to the surface now, where it's less stale. I just wanted to show a controlled situation where it's almost like we're inside a gigantic cathedral that's like completely abandoned or something, you know? Alright, so let's go to the surface. I hope I'm not spoiling too much for anyone. I will not. I'll just go to a regular portion of the map that people would not be unfamiliar with, like Hyrule. Yeah, but the ability to process ambiphonic audio has been something that Nintendo has always needed, because you know, like remember, like even getting the sword from Ocarina of Time, how you had to like dodge that rock that was rolling blindly down the different corridors, and you could only use your sense of hearing to know whether or not it was gonna, you know, bash into you, or whether or not when you're chasing like Skull Kid in Majora's Mask 2, he's up in the trees and you gotta like shoot him with the arrow before he notices you have caught him. Okay, so this might be fun. So there's a chasm right there. See how it automatically does the right thing? It automatically stifles the top end of the sound. Just like so we sound really well. So you hear the full high range frequency of the bomb on a flat surface. But when you shoot it into a chamber, all the high range frequencies end up bouncing around, and only the longest wave frequencies manage to escape. And that's why it sounds like that. Even when I shoot it like, you know, towards the lip. See how the bombs are like, you know, the debris is like still flying out? The sound is still bouncing back and forth enough to cancel out the top range of the bomb. So if I shoot a bomb in front of me, turn around, same effect. You still get the sound. out of just 2 stereo speakers. Oh, he's warning me up with the gloom. Something we're not very accustomed to as humans is the sound of explosives happening below us. But the easiest way to understand that is basically just through like the imagining. It's the same thing as pinning a subwoofer up on a wall, because a floor really is just a wall anyway. It's just that when we're making a recording, we generally don't want to record the floor.
Yeah.
Pretty cool, right? It sounds different. Because I'm hitting a rock.
Yeah.
Versus if I'm hitting like
Yeah.
this thing.
Yeah.
See? The farther I get from the rock,
Yeah.
the more complex the sound. Because
Yeah.
it has to take into consideration all the angles of that thing in its acoustics.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, so you can definitely see, watch, I'm going to throw it and make sure it lands right behind my left shoulder. Now I'm going to throw it and from this angle and make sure it lands behind my right shoulder. Oh shoot, I pushed the button in by mistake. Let me try that again.
Yeah.
That was kind of hard to do. I'm going to use an arrow. There, like that. The hell? Did it not land? I don't know what happened to them all. Okay. Let's shoot it straight up. Actually, let's just throw it straight up. I'm just trying to be fancy. So I can throw it the other way too, but so if I throw it this way and I cross all the way over this way, you hear it actually coming from this angle behind my left shoulder to my right shoulder. So still again. Sorry.
Yeah.
So the most natural way of doing that would actually be to turn the other way, right? That was to my side. So, face. Too close.
Yeah.
So you can see where Zelda's facing to kind of like, I'm trying to throw it where he's facing forward. So that way we can turn and judge by what angle he would be at. So that was like right, almost behind me, but a little bit to my right shoulder. So I'm gonna get more to my right shoulder this time. So very much to my right shoulder.
Yeah.
See? So it's fun to hear yourself getting chased. Because this is when the sound effects really come out to play. I realized that all these sounds have to be processed live. I should eat. I'm not gonna save or anything, but might as well. See the little snitch over there? Oh, they have a cavern. Maybe a whistle in there. It's too open. Maybe back to the space. Watch this. I'm gonna use a boomerang. Make things even more complicated. So all of that sound has to be processed live and with zero latency. So people complaining about, Nintendo having like a lag on their Bluetooth, well, they're having to host like 8 to 16 Bluetooth devices on there just at once. So yeah, the boomerang even helps you, so you know when it's coming. So I can catch it from behind me because I can hear it. Watch this. There's actually like a Batman drop that you could do. If you're completely out of stamina and you're in the sky, you have one last chance to flutter your wings, and if you don't, then you're screwed. You're dead. So after you run out of all your stamina, you have one more chance to just flutter your wings, and it lasts for like 1 second. And you have to time it exactly when you hit the floor, and then you'll survive. If you don't, then you're just gonna become, I guess, smithereens. Let me just try to get rid of as much stamina as I can. But the way that you do it is you use sound. I'm using headphones right now. But listen. Listen. I'm pointing straight up right now. the cheater, the easiest way would be to do this, but I'm putting it straight up right now. Just listen. See? I was literally like a foot off the floor. And that's all based off of pretty much just like sound. Nintendo takes care of their sound so consistently that they have things like this. Invisible things that wrap you around with sound. Like that. I just so happen to find one. This thing only tells you of its existence. Yeah, you could see it, right? But you would walk right past it. It wouldn't for that sound, right? And you could hear it wrapping around all around you. So yeah, what that is actually a Karok. There's a little spirit that when he was an orphan. In one of his avatar embodiments. Yeah, but that's how important sound is in Nintendo. Even for little secrets like that, they use sound games of twirling, like, you know, figure eights around you and stuff like that. And falling from literally the sky to the floor and landing within a foot and not having any stamina left and just having just one more chance to do a little puff. It's just something you kind of just get used to, because you get used to the sound of you actually getting close to the floor enough that you could actually just do that Batman landing. And it's pretty cool. Yeah, so I'm going to check to see how this turned out, because I'm doing a binaural recording for the second time, and the first time it turned out okay. The stereo recording actually the omni recording actually turned out better last time than the what's it called? The binaural recording. So we'll see. Well, thanks for listening. I'm probably gonna do some cuts and stuff like that on this, but yeah, I was just showing. And this is gonna go into a part 2 that might get a little bit darker. It's gonna really go into why Nintendo decided to go completely independent on their sound platform. And it's not because they're going to be renting it out or licensing it out, because that's not necessary. Because, you know, why wouldn't everyone just license out Dolby, right? But yeah, I'll explain why Nintendo needed to have full independence of sound to have the full ability to express their sound exactly how they needed it to be. And thanks for listening.